the boards, you either have a handful of people that have made boards
Full
because they're
screen
really
here.
expensive, or you set up an garbage on the low end, which requires five elements of work. And I'm going, this is really fun. And I'm sitting there going, well, why not start poking around? So I got a copy of and just started, plugging away and looking at diagrams and
Okay, guys, we're going to get started. It's about 8 o'clock. Should have started a little bit earlier, but that's okay.
Learn Python and all the other things. I do not know how I got my hands on this slide. It came with my version of LibreOffice Impress, which is their version of PowerPoint or Keynote. And you'll notice it has this little Debian logo thing, and yay, that takes up the majority of the space in the file by a long shot. Anyway, so the whole, there we go. So the intended audience, well, you can see some of this, but people who are into ham radio. Not that there's anything explicitly about ham. It's just, I know where you're thinking, and you're thinking about packets. And it'd be nice to be able to do something with those packets once you've moved them. People that still fight about Gen 2. Okay, that's me. Perl mongers that haven't munged much since they got cell phones. The HR folks for that tech writer job I want. Well, okay, that's obviously me. I wrote this in Vim and LibreOffice, so me. And people that will prevaricate no further and try some of this IoT stuff, because that's really the reason a lot of us have some interest, is that, yeah, Python's been in Linux for a long time. It's not that new. It's just that what it does now, it has moved the court because of the modules it has. And you can use Python to do a surprising number of things with tiny external things. This is a big deal. And it means that you can start using your high-level thinking to deal with projects and get kids involved and kind of bring a new generation in. And where are they going to work when they have to write their code? We want them to write on Linux boxes. Yes. So the question was, where do you feel Python is compared to Perl in terms of all of the libraries, the CPAN that you have in Perl? The answer is, I'm not sure it has the same amount. I've never actually done a count. However, I can tell you that the ones it has now are more relevant to modern needs. For example, if you're doing data analysis, there's no question, get into Python. It has SciPy, pandas, what's the bunch of them. Like each one, in fact, they're still evolving what they can do with those modules very quickly, so that if your goal is you're going to do business intelligence, Python is exactly the way to go. If you're working in the world of, yes, this, of course, the hand gesture that no one can see except here in the room, but it means nothing compared to what I'm talking about. But hi, but so like the newer kinds of the future of computing, quantum computing, which right now, if you get time on it, most people, when they do, they're doing Python projects because they want to be able to deal with those states without having to think of all the parts. There are modules that are made to do this. It makes your work easier. Does it have anywhere near the thing? Like it, obviously Python doesn't have some of the, how can I put it, the cutie level stuff. Like for example, Damien Conway's famous module in Perl for writing Perl in Latin. Okay, that's not there. And I don't think it ever will be. However, Perl went off and made its, well, I say this as an old school Perl monger, Perl went off and did its Chinese Democracy album and never really came back from it. If that reference doesn't work, Spinal Tap 2, A Jazz Odyssey. It's supposed to say Spinal Tap and Puppet Show. It's supposed to be top billing. So the big point out of this is that while Perl was something that a lot of us grew up on, and we're going to get to this, is that Perl lost its lead by having its 20-year holy war. Python's holy war was earlier and shorter, and in fact was something that Perl never had to have a fight about, which was how to add Unicode. Like that should have been there. The dude's Dutch. I mean, like, really? Okay, I granted they only have one extra letter and you can just kind of munge it, but like that's, no, this is a weird, I'm sidetracked boy, but one of the weird things in Europe is, of course, that there are different keyboards in almost every country. And so the Dutch, they just use ours. The British don't even use ours, but the Dutch use the US keyboard. It's exactly the one they like. It's cheap because they can get them everywhere. Whereas you cross the bridge and cross over to France and they're AZERTY, there's a whole bunch of things. Even Spain, they'll be similar, but you got to get an Enya key in there somewhere. And you also still, again, the accents are kind of standard. Whereas then you get languages where the accents vary, or the Nordic keyboard where they'll have 3 extra letters, but suddenly everything else moves around. And I have learned the hard way. It is very hard to do shell commands on a Nordic keyboard unless you remap and don't look. Ooh, mod on. I nearly failed a test on that, but I kept my job and that was good. So onward, I swear. All braces, no braces, all spaces, go places. So Python is not an intimidating language. I'm saying this to people who've never really touched it, but tonight you're going to look at it and go, wait, that works. And that's the feeling we used to get when we looked at Perl was, wait, I just took my pseudocode and it's code. And there is that level. However, instead of it being like the Perl golf level of try to make it as tiny as possible and just jam it into one line and then throw that in something and boom. Python is based on the idea that you might be reading the code years later rather than being the prima donna that gets to start with the code. And this means it is more about teaching what's already been written and then writing new things based on that. Though strangely, just in the last few iterations, they started adding new features that throw that off as well. Does in every language, but we'll see. Like I say, tools for kids and elders alike. The big tools, like I say, we're talking about CircuitPython and MicroPython. I have a book here. I should say that. But so as it does have admin tools, huge admin tools. In fact, yes, there are entire books about how to do this. Now, we are so used to our workflows being based on, say, in Perl, that you could just give the commands, Gesundheit. They have the same thing. And in fact, they've got their integration with even having to do this for Windows, where you still got servers, you still got work to do, are pretty good. It is obviously there are things that we're so used to when we think of, we start doing the thing of having an outdated whitelist, where you go to the, I'll explain. So when you go to buy a car now, you don't bring your great grandfather's list of what the car should have, because his list has things like buggy whip, and you look and there's no buggy whip. Well, yes, there's a picture of a horse, but it's a Ferrari. No buggy whips, not buying it. It won't make it. It'll make it. It has a temperamental clutch, but that doesn't mean it won't make it. It's a car Ferrari. So it's that kind of thing of yes, is the regex integral the way it is with Perl? No, it's a module. However, it also means that the footprint is tiny, kind of like Lua. And that means you can put it on embedded devices when with very little effort. This makes a difference. Perl is not going to an embedded device, not because it couldn't, not because it wouldn't be faster, but because the idea of I'm going to deal with these raw electrons and call these libraries for that, not happening as much. It's not that it couldn't have. It's that all the 20 years that led up to that, the changes in Web 2.0, and then everybody getting cell phones, passed Perl by while they were busy writing Perl 6, just having Larry throw that away, writing it again, throwing that away, and then another one. And then eventually figuring out that they could name it after a form of Japanese crackle cure. We'll get to that. But yes, so Python's founder is stepping back, which is a sign of success and growing pains. Whether he likes it or not, it does mean he knows that the language is surviving, even if he is no longer the single leader. And the problem with him being a single leader is that the problems of that had led him to realize, oh, maybe after 30 years, I should let this baby live. And it is. Python's community is full of positive, full of youth and welcoming people. And that's really nice. I mean, we know as a lug, there's sometimes a curmudgeonly thing that we develop and go, you kids these days with your screen and your minicom and your and your USB serial adapters. Yeah, flippity flu. I'm not talking anymore. Well, funny thing, the kids hear that and they go, same to you, old man. And but the process is going on and there's new things to be done. And the API has grown to use user needs. It's because certain big sites moved towards Python early on, and then other things have kept going with it, and that a lot of tools that work on your phone are tailored to work with Python. It means that the stuff is there for you to go and play around and break things. So what makes one stall instead of coding in Python? Well, perfect is the enemy of good, as Voltaire said. If I ride the snake, am I abandoning Perl? And I'm kind of making it clear that you can work through your daddy issues. It's going to be fine. You can write Perl another time. But right now, we're going to learn something new. And it's not that foreign. It is not completely Tim Toady. Sometimes there seems to be only one way to do it, and they're not always telling you. There's a little bit of a hipster club about it. But the good thing is there are enough new eyes on it for people to go, oh, that's the problem with this. And then there's pip. We'll get to that. So tonight we're just going to focus on getting a workflow so that you can get centric. And we go back to the old slide with a Debian-centric presentation. Windows lacks all the necessary parts. It doesn't come with Python at all. So you just download all the parts and install, and then you're done. The tools for cross-distribution setup in Linux are finally begun to gel. I'm going to talk about Snap, and if you haven't heard about that, that might be the more interesting thing of this speech. You could spin up a VM while I talk and follow the bouncing ball. And anything to skirt pip. Pip. So Python has modules, and they have the Python importer package or thing, PIP pip.
So what was the question?
Question is, why must it exist? And the answer is
third-party modules.
Yeah, no, third-party modules. The tool that they have for third-party modules is kind of a nightmare. It's not that it doesn't work. It's that it insists on doing everything. It's kind of like somebody from Massachusetts. It insists on reinventing the wheel and not just taking like a compiled module. Oh no, I got to do this. Oh, you've got conflicts. Here's some more conflicts. When you're done, you don't have what you needed. And you're like, I'm not getting to work. And in fact, Debian and Ubuntu go around this by going, here, pre-built stuff. I don't care if they're old, they work. And for many of the things, that's what we'll do. For example, when we install virtual environment, we will get to that. So step 00 snap. Yes, because I had a step 0 coming up. So I had to have a 00. So 00 snap, snapcraft.io. The question is, why does Firefox ESL still exist when Firefox already speaks English? The answer is to get you to install Snap and then use Snap to keep Firefox updated. Thanks, Canonical. We'll be using this with both SyncThing and Moo Editor as we go along. So take a quick side out and say, what is Snap? Well, I will show you the website rather because I'm on, unfortunately, my Windows laptop. But yes, so there we go. So the Snapcraft site, is this, oh, that's not shared. Okay, switch over. No, my fault. No, that's me. That's not you. Share screen, switch to regular screen. Got it. So, oh, I blocked a lot. Oh, because I, yeah, meow. Oh, yeah. But yeah, for now, sure. Okay, so this is Snapcraft. If you scroll down, it's more interesting than the front part because you can see all the kinds of things you can build, Snap apps, what have you. But the biggest thing is that it works with a surprising number of distributions, including Arch, and it gives you a chance to install the more actively developed, high vulnerability, high security risk tools as quickly as possible. We've all had that. So in fact, I was encountering this today when I was sitting there trying to use a tool we'll talk about shortly, SyncThing, with my Debian Tower at home, which is also where I keep all my music and tend to do a lot of my reading. versus other machines where it just wouldn't quite sync and everybody was having a fit. And then I realized it's running, because it's using the Debian apt package, it was running version 1.00, which is like a couple of years old. Whereas Snap has version 1.42, up to date. And in return, it meant suddenly, yes, I had to replace this, but when I did, I got the latest. Everything went into sync and we were done. There were no longer, oh, there are these 384 bytes that aren't resolving, so I'm going to keep thinking everything crashed. Nope, problem gone. Wonderful. Awesome. And yes, great way to install Firefox. You don't worry anymore. Updates get taken care of. And there are other tools too. I actually have been using Joplin, which is for taking notes. So this is what that looks like. When you install it, you then go and you can make calls as simple as snap install Firefox, snap it, that's it. You can look up what they've got a search engine, various other pieces. It's a great tool. If you haven't had a chance to use it, give it a lookie. Flatpak, I believe, so gotta remember, I knew the answer to this and now I don't. I think it's, yeah, because I think what it was with Flatpak was that it's, isn't it full source files? I think this only does some form of binaries. I'm not sure, and I'm gonna have to, so I'll touch back with you on that. What's that? Yeah. Was that a Red Hat one? Oh no, yeah. But yeah, pretty much. I don't know if they all have the same packages. It starts to get like Netflix versus Hulu kind of things. Oh, well, wait till we start talking about Vagrant. Anyway, so step 0, if only things were in sync. Many of you probably have an old Dropbox or whatever account and are annoyed that if you now want to put that on more than 3 machines, you need to pay them. And they're like, well, you'll get terabytes. I don't need terabytes out in the cloud. I just want what I have here. Well, guess what? There is a distributed and really free open source Dropbox type thing, sync thing. As you can see, it's really easy to install with Snap because it's Snap install sync thing. But when I say the center does not hold, the model that it uses for distributing your files, instead of like Dropbox where you're basically logging into Dropbox, they've got a version of your files and you copy back out. You're really just networking your machines that have logins. And it is so, and this is actually pretty cool to look at. So let's see if I can't get the, am I not sure? I am sure. Okay. Actually, boom. No, even you. If I pull up, here we go. Now, right now, it won't look all that interesting because I've only got one. Let's see if I can get it to bring up there we go. So like a good geeky tool, the logs are already here. But more importantly, so this is a version of what it looks like in Windows. It doesn't look very different in Linux because it's just a web browser. It's just a web page that's locally hosted. And in this case, you can see that, oh, okay, so I'm linked up to 5 other machines, one of which is my phone, one of which is my tower back home. Some are machines I haven't booted in a while, and one is this ThinkCenter that's not plugged in. But I can say, okay, I only want to share these folders with those. It has this thing called discovery where you can say, okay, this machine, when you add it, you can tell other machines about it or not. You can also, you have these levels of control of what it shares because sometimes you want to have backing up of giant files, but not with your phone because no space. And, that's no problem. This is sync thing. It's awesome. I will say if you want to use it in Android, because it works very well in Android, actually, the installer requires that you install something called F-Droid, which is a non-Android installer tool. I can just pull that page up quickly so you get an idea. No, that's a F-Droid. So F-Droid on your, let me click the bit. Yeah, what the heck? It'll probably work today. Usually I have everything blocked, so So it's a tool for installing open source software on your cell phone. It has prepackaged stuff. It's very good about keeping updated. It's cute and also low bandwidth. I like it. I mean, I only use it for one thing, updating sync thing, but there are plenty of other things that you can use with it. So it's something worth considering. So more new notes. Now, what I'm calling walking a cow to the snake pit. Because, you know, it's Python. There should be snakes. Why aren't there snakes? Who's allergic to snake? Maybe cow. But because I'm dealing with dice, which kind of look like cows' spots, I really ran out of ideas. But our first project here is going to be loading and running this dice roller script that I have. It calls a module, particularly random. It takes some input, it then some ifs, and it gives you a score. It's all, command line, nothing elaborate. And so, with great wonder, I bring you to the place where we will do this. Oh wait, no, I don't, because I still need to introduce Python's virtual environments. Oh, VENV, which I guess they call VENV, or VENV, or I'm actually not sure. I've been saying VENV all day, so then again, I wasn't talking to anyone. There's a company called HashiCorp that has this thing called Vagrant, and it deals with building virtual, originally command line, mostly environment, but like building virtual machines. They started supplying virtual Python environments. And so that tool got ported back into regular Python as this, because Vagrant is huge, and it's based on, the whole tool is based on, you're going to be doing data analysis. So it brings a whole lot of other material with it that we're not using right now. We're doing little things, and that's good. So it bundles dependencies into a config file called pyvenv.cfg. It's simple YAML. It's really easy to read. It's like a chroot, it's a change root for a Python project. Inside there, you can have, like, if your project needs certain modules and you haven't tested certain changes, so you don't want to upgrade those, but it's okay to upgrade these. And then it's time to give that to back to your company for them to do work. This way, you don't even think about, oh, okay, you got to install this, but don't do that. No, you just go, use this config file, go. Well, because it's a virtual machine. When it's venv, I'm just going to say VENV because it's starting to sound weird. When it's VENV, it's not a question of whether it's compatible with other virtual machines. It's only dealing with Python projects. And projects can be defined by whatever app you're using, or no app at all. If you just have a folder with a script, you then you instantiate. And like I say, don't use pip to install venv unless you have masochistic tendencies. But the point is, it makes the project more portable. And let me see if I can give you a nicer example by going to. Yes. Well, yes, but and there are. Okay. Yes, but right now it's that discussion is kind of apples to oranges, unless you've really got like an example you really want to get into. If it's okay, I'm going to show what I've got. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, I've got it on my cloud servers. It's not that weird, and it can be. I mean, the point is that you can share those out. I've got it where I have some venvs on my Dropboxes, so I can just pull up and go, Now, there are differences between OSs just because of versioning and other things. But right now, if our focus is, we want to be able, is that I want to make it so that we get to a point of working. And so we're about to get to Moo in a bit, but here's the tool that we're going to be using to start, a simple IDE called Moo, and we'll talk about that later. It doesn't have a problem with any VMs. It's just in there. Yeah, that's not where the problem. No. Okay, so, I'm a little sidetracked now. So let's, you know what? I may actually have to table that because I'm realizing I should spend more time showing what this looks like. And I don't have that. I have it on here, but I don't have it set up with what we're doing because I did all my work on a different machine. I think this is something I could actually make a separate presentation about, and really should, because then you can get a comparison. It's because it will be significant. Let's just say for now that we've got it where, just so you can see what the structure looks like, this part's easy, is this here is a folder called buttonism, because this is about buttons on a toy. And this is the file we're going to be looking at, fateroll cli.py. You'll notice there are these two folders. This one here, venvdeb, meaning it's the Debian one. You can see the basic structure that's in all of them. Well, at least in the Linux version, you have a binary where it's calling mostly just, as you can see, they're mostly just soft links to things like, okay, there's a couple of scripts. Activate is the script, and there's there are other versions for C shell and one for if you use fish shell. Not even going to get into that today. But to get things rolling, quick little look at that, just so you can see what I'm talking about. So when you source this file from bash, it's like, okay, I'm going to add this to the front of the path so that I call my local versions of things. I'm going to add to your PS1 a reference of which virtual environment you're now in, which is really nice because it's just in parentheses, it's like dice or whatever it is you're working on. It's really awesome that way. And in this case, it's telling its names. It now has a couple of extra, nothing heavy, simple enough shell script, very simple shell script. But in turn, that integrates, oh, and the password here. In turn, that integrates with, for example, it's pointing to a version of pip and all these things. Previous releases of this would actually include an entire Python binary. They eventually realized that's not a brilliant idea, but you can do that if you want. You can say, okay, no, don't call any of the local ones, just build a separate one for this, which does make it more portable. And you can have it both ways. It doesn't take much. These files are easy to copy. The configuration itself is, as I mentioned, pyvenv here. And as you'll see, this one, it's 3 lines. There's my home path. Does it use site packages? In this case, no, the old school one, and a version. All right, that's it. Just simple. This is to that. But also, here are your libraries that it might be calling that are site specific in this case. Pip stuff, other packages, badadoo. You get also, if you have 64-bit ones, in this case, we definitely did. But yet there's nothing there. Doesn't mind. And if there are any extra files that need to be brought in, such as these are, I forget what the WL files are. Oh my word, I don't know. They'll be important, I'm sure, but not today. So when you're in the shell, like I said, this works in the command line as well. You're in the shell, you can put together, sorry, just a sec. You could put together all the parts you need and have it be either portable or at least easy to come back to and easy to update when you think the time has come. Like, oh, I need those features. I'm ready to release these pieces. That's okay. I will actually, you know what, just thinking about this, I'm going to be doing a separate presentation about that in the future. It's just worth it. So back to the slides. Why don't we slide? Oh, one problem that exists right now is that the tools API is broken, in that the server got overwhelmed by too many calls and they haven't been able to fix this in over 2 months. So you can't actually search because it's search out to the web is overwhelmed. But that probably won't be true forever. They'll come up with something else. Read, evaluate, print, loop, REPL. This one I did get the pronunciation right. It's REPL. Yeah, like Ripple, the old drink. Yay. Yeah. All right. So REPL is Python's interactive interpreter. And it's similar to like how you could call Gesundheit, Perl, or certain other languages, and you can actually sit there in an interpretive shell. But here it's given a little more import. There's a stronger expectation that you'll spend time in there. There's also a stronger expectation that you might start using it instead of a calculator, because you can type 2 + 3 and it'll tell you 5. You can tell it stuff you want to know about hyperbolic functions and it'll give you your answers. You can also make those scripts, but you can also make the script there and then go outward. So let's see what that looks like. Well, it kind of looks like, I'll give you one example here, which is when you're in Moo, you hit the REPL button and there it is. In this case, you'll notice what it's actually saying here is Jupyter Qt Console. Jupyter is another really cool tool, but I don't have any time to get into it right now. It is, what's the word? Mind-blowingly cool. Because what it lets you do is, it's built from IPython, not to be confused with IronPython, but IPython was a way of doing, was another way of organizing files and pieces. And it eventually led into integration with a web browser to use a web browser as instead when you don't have a command line. So you get, now let me know if I'm going too fast, because I probably am. My mother always says I talk too fast. So, but is that, and I can do it, not only could I do another presentation about it, I worked with a team back in Tulsa, and we were teaching people how to use it and how to get comfy with it. And it had such advantages that it was so advanced. First of all, you could serve it directly from your laptop, no problem. It doesn't use much bandwidth. It's using existing tools to do it. But in turn, you can sit there and work inside of a web browser. And if you've got an error, it'll light up on the side and tell you what the error is. You're like, okay, we're used to that. That's what you get in IDEs. But this is in your web browser, and it's not like hogging everything. Gesundheit, you can get back to watching that video. It's the beauty of it is that it lets you write code and learn what you're doing and see visual results, especially if you're doing data analysis or any kind of regression testing and stuff. You can see what you're doing when your code has those parts right away. It is awesome. The reason we're not getting into that today is that that's much more for things you're doing, talking to the cloud. And my focus here is talking to the little devices. So, but in this case, I think we can get away with calling. I always mess this up. So rather than, let's see if it has the, do I have the run there? Ah, there we go. So here you can see, oh, right, I didn't even get you to the point where we saw the whole code. So maybe I should hide that and that, and I will show you some code. We start with something that's very familiar. We don't even have a shebang line here, mostly because we're in Windows. You can have a shebang line. Of course you can have a shebang line. They're the best. But from random import star, basically from the random module, pull in everything. I don't have time to sort it. But of course you can always, yeah, that is the Mu. This is the Mu editor. And I will come back to what that is about in just a moment, because that is one of the pivotal pieces here. So we define a, what is their term for a procedure statement? What's their term for the subroutine? I forget. Thank you. So as you can see, triple quotes, you've got a long-term remark going on. One of the interesting things with Python is integration to your documentation. One of the expectations is that you will write up, not just like pods where you're like, okay, well, you have a little bit. No, the expectation is that instead of self-documenting being this joke that it had been with COBOL and everything else, you can pick what you document. And that means you don't have to go then and write a separate document later. You can have, when you do your build, it'll be like, oh, this page will appear on GitHub and be the thing that they read. And when you need to make changes, you change it in the code. Oh, cool. There's also Markdown. Oh, we'll get to that another time. But you can see, okay, simple calls. Yes, I can have strings, integers, and I can even have, there aren't a lot of types because they don't need to. Everything is, the fundamental type in Python is, I believe, a list. So it expects to build lists of things. It just string them along. So if you explicitly need something to be an integer, in which case this is pretty useful, but it also means I can still do things like, have more pieces. Oh, gee, I don't know enough. Because I know it, God, I mean, like, what are the, I'm gonna have, yeah. Like I said, it's a list. Everything is a list. There are some variabilities with lists, such as a tuple, which is a list that does not, it's an immutable list, which is actually very useful when you're like, okay, I want to make sure this becomes the reference point and then build side versions. So that works. But yeah, so, and in this case, it rolls. You'll notice these print statements look kind of where because this is how they're dealing with printf now is, print, everything is inside of, this is one of the few times where there is such a thing that just keeps going and going, is I print statements in 3 require being inside, treated as if they were the response of a function, like it's the argument. The argument's an actual argument. Your roll of whatever this sided die results in that. And then of course there are more. Is this the old one? This shouldn't be the old, this is the old one. Okay, this is an old version of the file. That's not going to help me today. Yeah, great. That didn't help me because that's the old version. So why don't I go back to where we were by talking about what it was, the Moo editor. So the Moo editor the Moo editor was I forget whose project it is, but I do think it might relate to the Circuit Python people. What it comes to is, as you can see, when you're in Moo, there's not a lot to it. And that's on purpose. It's meant to be like Little League or T-ball. The themes are dark and not so dark and dark. Dark, light, not so dark, dark. You can zoom in and zoom out. You've got the debugger. You've got loading and you've got modes, which is something we do want to cover. It's one of the few things that's like, okay, we need to think about this. Am I just writing? Now, this will be familiar if you've used any kind of IDE. It's just the very basic stuff of it. Oh, yeah, sure. See if it'll, it won't let me zoom that part, but let's see if I can't even, anyway, so see if this will make it a little easier. But the point is that there are, actually what might help is switching the cancel. Let's go to the bright theme. So you've got here regular Python 3 code. You've got Pygame 0. There are tools to build games in Python. BBC microbit, which means it's doing MicroPython explicitly for the microbit, but it can also do other MicroPythons. And then there is the dominant one here, Adafruit Circuit Python. We will be getting to that as one of the embedded types. When you select one of those, this changes down here at the bottom. So right now you'll need to see it says Python, but if I were to select Circuit Python, the code I'm still working on, it'll only say Adafruit here, and I get different buttons. I don't have REPL. I have the serial console. Ooh, built right in. This is what we want to know when we're dealing with embedded devices. But back to, and that will actually be useful. Now, in this case, actually, this is the code I've got right here is something I was going to show later because it involves the microbit. This is a bunch of mappings of 5x5 lights and their intensities to make numbers look a certain way. And yes, I called the variable denumbers, and there are denumbers. But yeah, I mean, very simple, but it means once it's connected, I can say, okay, show me the this and the these and the that. And load, did I not pick up the right? No, I'm in the wrong folder. I think I'm in the wrong folder. Yeah, I'm in the wrong folder. Yes, I am. Great. Conda fuzzy dice chapter. Anyway, we won't even worry about it now because we got to see a lot of the important stuff. And we have a piece of code here anyway. It's just not quite as colorful. But great. If that doesn't have the other piece. Anyway, boy, let's mess things up. So not too bad. How can we pick back up with it? Let's go to their site. That's what I do want to show this because it's a really, usually when you're like, oh, right, let's go look at their website. No. There's a reason for this one. You'll notice that it's called Code with Mu, Code with .mu. Like they started in that location because they're thinking about what you're going to do. But this is beautiful. This quote, I got to say, I kind of love this. So let's, This is Alan Kay. If you're not familiar with Alan Kay, he's one of the most important people in software development going back to the 60s. His ideas, oh, wow. Anyway, so here he is talking about what it was about getting younger people involved, and the idea of it's kind of like Little League or T-ball. In sports, they do this all the time. In music, they do it all the time. The idea is you never let the child do something that isn't the real thing, but you have to work your ass off to figure out what the real thing is in the context of the way their minds are working at that developmental level. When you think about a T-ball game, you got a 6-year-old. They're going to probably be scared of a ball coming directly at them, but that doesn't mean you don't want them to learn how to swing and how to connect and how to know, oh, this is the range I should be looking in. Then, especially because they'll all be fine catchers because they can squat, they're already little, they're flexible, but pitching is a trickier thing. So you focus on the stuff that they can do, run around the bases, burn off their energy. And everybody has a good time. Well, you know, unless you were me, I didn't. Yes, and they go directly to bed. They go to bed and it's awesome, and they don't even ask questions about it. Do you want to hear a story? Get you a good game. So, but yeah, this is a you know, it's a beautiful toy. But it also, I still like using it just on a regular basis because it's so simple, even though it's a full IDE, that I can still get my errors and get all my problems. And yet I can't go and get lost in the weeds of all the other tools. I am made to focus on my code and make it actually do what I need it to do. Yeah. I have not actually, my only thing is I haven't used Thani yet. That's it. So it might also turn out to be a good one. I also have, I pay for PyCharm. It's one of the few pieces of software that I subscribe to. Is much more, yeah, that's a full, I mean, that's a full IDE, and boy, do you get it. You know, the PEP 8 stuff where the formatting is formalized, that tool is built into that. There are all sorts of things built into that, and we'll take a quick look at it, but you'll also see why that may not be where you want to start, because you'll go get lost instead of getting work done. Yeah. It's Notepad++ when you hit F12. I think it's F12. Yeah, where it just, you get, and if guys you've never seen this before, if you hit F12, that's it. There aren't even, I think it does a little, I'm trying to remember if it does. I don't think it does any code prediction. Oh. Let me see if it, no, it actually does. That's right. It doesn't even do that. It makes you think it out. So that is, in contrast, something that you get as an advantage back in the PyCharm world, which if I thought I had it here anyway. Is that it? No. But yes, so that gives you some idea. Now, also, another nice thing is some of these tools are relatively recent. Like this has only been out for a couple of years. So it hasn't gotten all that rococo even about its simple self. Frankly, the shock for me is that, oh, in the newer version, you have 3 of these instead of just 2. And I really like this half-lit one. I do. I like it. So, but yeah, what is, oh, sorry, that was other work I was doing. So yes, this is Moo. You've now seen some of it. And now we'll kind of just take a little longer than I thought it would. Boom, we get to work, the dark mode, and you saw it. And again, easy to install. You could install it from pip, but again, I once lost a day trying. And then when I found out it was on Snap, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm wasting time here. And then, you know, I was done. Done is great. Extroverted toys. What does he possibly mean? Ah, what are these? These, 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 and then there's one of these, and then there's this. Did I show you this? Yeah. And then there's this one too. Okay, so I like my toys, and when I say I do, I'm talking about dorky things you buy at at like Micro Center. Oh, it's such a bad idea that I now live in a place with a Micro Center. But this, oh, I live Cleveland. I live in Lakewood. Sorry. This, oh, right. I should switch to showing myself. Yeah. He's going bowling. Don't lose him in souling. I'm actually now going to show myself. Is it showing me? Yes. Except it's showing all of the me rather than, how do I tell it just to, is there a way to tell it to go directly? Oh, okay, sure. All right. Oh man, this is gonna be fun. Self unto self. The rendering is, okay, great. So see that little thing is a little. See this smaller than a business card. This is a microbit. I've got, yeah. You can buy these really cheap right now. They have like them under a shelf over in my, yeah, pretty much. And but here's what's funny is how powerful this thing actually is. It has a USB connector, and also you can power it off of LiPos or whatever you want with those connectors. What's that? I believe, oh, you're right. I think it is an STM32. Yeah. Sorry, good point. But it is, so, and as you can see, it's got a 5x5 LED grid and buttons that click and places you can connect alligator clips. And it has an accelerometer and some other cool things. Oh, and it even says on here processor, and it points to it, compass, and it points to that, and the accelerometer and the pins. Pins, you need pins. What's that? Well, you can plug it in, like you say, you can get power off USB. That's also the way to upload. You can power it off of battery. The box comes with a little battery box because it only needs, I think it only needs like 3 volts. Yeah, AAA's actually. So I will just quickly show you using this tiny wire. Yeah. Yep. And they even now sell the if in case you don't have one, like I wasn't coming up with that, they have such connectors as the Gator bit where you plug it in and it splits out all of them. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Let me show the humans. Hello, look, I am a Gator bit from SparkFun of Colorado. So right now you see this and it's now on, and kind of show everybody a little bit. It says 0. Congratulations. 1, 2. It's just scrolling up numbers. It also scrolls down. My goal here was actually is that's the code you were seeing earlier, is that these the byte renderings for these I mean, they're, you know, for PWM 5x5 LEDs. And that meant I could actually throttle it down. So it wasn't just, it's like, oh, 7s and 2s. Oh, that works, right? Yeah. Okay. There we go. So, and yes, it also can show full language. It has the ability to just scroll things, but when it's 5x5, it doesn't look right. So there's a use to doing something like this. But the big use is that because of this thing, because of MicroPython, hold on, let me get the book out. This book, Python for Microcontrollers. Now this book, now the thing is, Donald Norris worked with this guy, Gordon, whose last name I forget, but when you go to the MicroPython site, it looks much more like a sales pitch for the Pi board, which is very nice, a little excessive considering what you're paying for, but they sell them in pretty colors. However, what's more useful, hold on, I'll grab this, is something that also works with CircuitPython. And that, because the thing is, there are now a lot of embedded devices that use Python. This one's pretty cool, actually. I like this one. It's called the Pi Portal. Hello. So there's a screen, and then the back, yep, and oh, the sticky's coming off. It has a cute little logo because it's Adafruit. And as you can see, it's just a screen, it's like I want to say a 230 by 420 screen, and you can see a regular ribbon connector, but it also has an Espressif, an ESP32, and an Atmel chip for its foundation. And this one's actually made by Analog Devices. It even comes with a blinky light and connectors for stuff. And now if I plug that in instead, I hope it works. I mean, it'll work, but it'll, let's see. Whoop, got it upside down. Yeah. I changed the opening tone. Right now it's telling me I'm not connected to the internet because I'm in a special room. But if it were, it would scroll a bunch of boring stuff. But the point is, this also is programmable in the Moo environment. And I think I paid $55. They've got these, they got like plenty of this. And oh, did I mention it takes SD cards? Did I mention it has this, that, and the other? And the point is, you program it in Python. And it can, so something like, and it's made with these 4 little grommets, so you can build a frame or just, screw it onto a piece of wood, and boom, you've got a device that you can see what you're going to come up with. Very strange and very fun. Yes. In fact, yes, because it's running CircuitPython as well. And so CircuitPython, and now I will get to that important slide, because let's get because this is actually gonna, well, yes, there we go. MicroPython, we were talking about they sell the Python boards. Here we go. Pico and Pico and CircuitPython. A couple tree ways to do it. So if there weren't religious battles, it wouldn't be open source. Lady Ada, who runs the Adafruit site and originally ran the it still actually keeps up the Lady Ada site. It doesn't, which was just like, oh, here's some stuff you can do in an Arduino. Here's some stuff. And she just kept coming up with more and more stuff and then selling parts. And it's basically the most successful manufacturing and distribution facility in Lower Manhattan. Weird place to do it from, but hey, short commute. Now, she does have an explanation of differences between CircuitPython and MicroPython. The big difference that most people deal with is that in CircuitPython, your reset button also, when you toggle it twice, makes it switch from being the device that runs to the storage device, so that you could just upload files directly. You don't need a special process. You don't need to use makefile tools. You just move the files over. And it also means if you're testing something and you just want to change the name on it, you can. Although I'll warn you, at least with this device, when you do that, it reboots every time you change the file. Then again, the reboot takes us 2 seconds. So it is, but what it means is that, yes, there's some rivalry. I forget what it is. There are a couple of things that MicroPython does a little better for testing, but right now they're both so early in their worlds, but that the idea is that you're fitting a fully interpreted language, as much of it as you need, into this, and you only have to make a small number of changes. Now, obviously, like we said, data analysis, you're probably not going to do on that chip. But if you want to call the results from the website you were building, your data analysis, and take a quick look and go, oh, yeah, we're losing money. It is made for that. And so there are, did I have any? Yes. Now, we will quickly look at PyCharm, the big IDE. And even with Mu, I have 2 different font sizes here. Even with Mu, there's a page talking about moving on, like when are you ready to go to a bigger tool. The community version is free. However, if you pay for it, you get surprising extra stuff. So let's see if I go back to my desktop. Oh, yeah, except it's specific to one. And in fact, the company is really weird about this. Like they have, yes, there's PyCharm, which is kind of their pride and joy. And they have IntelliJ if you're working in Java. However, each one is a separate price. And if you want to use all of them, it's a lot. It's much more than it really. I mean, like, yeah, they develop, so they're paying coders. That's good. But oh man, it's like every language, completely separate IDE.
They cater to enterprises.
Yeah, they cater. Thank you. They cater to enterprises, and it really does kind of makes some of that point there. So why is it I still can't see? You know what? I'll just do. There we go. Scroll down. I had it open earlier, so this should. I even updated it today, so it should be good. P, as in the letter P. Yeah. Here we go. People, PowerPoint, putty. How did I miss it? You're right. Brain damage. Is it ever gonna load? Don't know. Why is it telling me? I should be up to date. I think it's. Whoa. Whoa, the prices really went up. Oh my God. Since I've now been paying for it for 3 years, my price is like way low. It started at $80 and now I'm down to like almost 40. So I'm sort of surprised. Oh, and there's already another update. What the blitcha monkeys? Just did this earlier today. I said close. Why aren't you closing? It wants Bonzi Buddy. Why? But yeah, so as you can see here, you've got the full thing. You see like really nice color, like all the really nice resolution stuff. It doesn't have an interpreter set up. I can just, have a full shell sitting there. I get information about errors. Yeah, this is my old version. This is the pay version. The free version has a good chunk of the stuff. I forget what it doesn't have. One of the big weirdies of it is that when they do have an upgrade, like if it's even a point version, you have to uninstall and reinstall if you're on the free version, and you'll end up with directories you have to clean up later. You pay for it, yeah. Mm-hmm. Not only that, they have an upgrade tool that you can see. Oh yeah. No. Yeah, it's on Linux. I don't think it's on Snap. But I mean, like, also they have this, so when you're paying for it, you get to use the toolbox, which does auto upgrades. Wait a minute, I did upgrade. What am I looking at then? Yes, I want to exit. That's weird. I must still have 2 versions installed. It's not lying about that. Weird, man. Anyway, right. So we're okay. And I realize now what else I would present. Here are my credits. And you're supposed to say what kind of licensing this is under. So I have to wear glasses when I drive. So that's the license. Anyway, so that's the big stuff. Are there, I mean, there probably are questions. So I'll just say questions. Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
What's the question?
Oh, sorry. The question was that why not next in a future episode, I just take some of these boards that I've brought in and show some programming and do some stuff with that. And so, yeah, no, I look forward to doing that because I love my toys and I spend a lot of time learning to do more things with them. So, yep. Oh my God, it's that close to 9. I hope you guys don't mind. I'm like, I kind of went, but yay. Thank you. Oh, back to you. Thank you. I brought my own headset.
Yeah, that helps. Yeah, just a little louder.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. I didn't realize. I'm so used to people telling me to turn it down. So sorry about that. And I will therefore drop off.
All right, everybody.
No, I seen it. No, I just looked over.
We're going to, this is our wind down for the meeting here, but thank you very much for Dante giving our presentation tonight. And hopefully next month we'll get into programming some of these devices that he's brought along with him. So we'll be able to actually see the editor and hardware in use and see some of the toys. See if we can maybe find a better font size so it's a little easier to see too if it's a little bigger. But
I also wish I could have brought a Linux laptop instead, but
Oh.
I know I'm broke, so my old one kind of quit.
I can bring mine. I just, it's just, I've
You
used
still gotta
this
give me
one.
the files and all that, but that's
Well,
easy.
we can do that ahead of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, my this machine is kind of my Zoom box. So I had a hard time getting Zoom working correctly earlier on with my Linux laptop, and I just switched over to this, and it's like, yeah, this is a Zoom computer.
What's your choice of distro?
I was running, or I am running Fedora, not Fedora. I'm running Ubuntu 20 point, along.
The LTS.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. For some reason, I was having a hard time getting Zoom, and that was earlier version of Zoom. Now I do have, I don't know if you guys have used it or not. Instead of Zoom, there's also Discord, which I have.
Discord every night.
Oh yeah. Well, I do. I have it on all the
Well,
time.
it's funny because when Discord first came out, there was no video.
No.
There was no sharing.
Right.
It was just straight voice to voice.
Right.
Then they started, all those little features started to
Adding
creep
on.
in
Mhm.
one at a time.
Discord is awesome.
Now it's actually to the point where you go,
It's actually full
actually
featured.
okay.
Oh, it is. It's very nice.